Previously on MF and Research. I gotta get rid of that Gerber Dime. I am not a fan of it at all. What's going on, everybody? This is Lamar with MF and Research, and today we might finally have a replacement for the Gerber Dime. I've been trying to replace it for a while, and if you remember in the Damn It Pouch video, I mentioned that I wanted to replace the Gerber Dime. A lot of you guys recommended the Nextool, so I picked up the Mini Sailor, and we're going to take a look at that today and see how they compare against each other. I was going to look at the Juice or the Squirt by Leatherman, but compared to the prices that they are on eBay, I just couldn't see myself getting those when this guy right here was right comparable to that price. So let's take a look. I thought the best way to do this would be just a nice head-to-head comparison. So what you're looking at right now is the specs for the two, just kind of a simplified version. The Sailor is an 11-in-1 where the Gerber Dime is a 12-in-1. We won't go through this list, but if you really want to look at it a little further, you can always pause the video right here to look at the tools. The weight on the Mini Sailor is about 20 grams heavier. They said 84 grams plus or minus 2 grams. I found it to be 85 when I weighed it myself. I found the Gerber Dime to be about 68 grams. So there's just under a 20 gram difference between the two. The dimensions, they're close, but the Gerber Dime is smaller. The price ranges for the Sailor are a little bit tighter than they are for the Gerber Dime, and the low is a lot lower than the low for the Gerber Dime. So you can usually find them pretty close in price. So if price is a concern, I'd wait till the Nextool goes on sale. One big differentiating factor is the fact that the warranty for the Mini Sailor is 1 year, where the Gerber Dime is lifetime or 25 years outside of North America. So if warranty is big for you, you may still have to deal with the Gerber Dime. So now let's talk about this guy first. This is the Mini Sailor. There are actually 3 variations of the Mini Sailor that you can find. This one is just the regular Mini Sailor. There's another one that replaces the pliers for scissors, and then there's the light that removes the bottle opener, can opener, and the knife. So it may be a more TSA compliant version. I might have to pick one of those up and put it into my TSA EDC in the future. So let me know what you think about that. From what I've seen, multi-tools are the biggest challenges in TSA. And for me, I prefer the larger pliers. I went with this one over the scissors version. So we're gonna compare those. And I think it's a more even comparison when you look at the Gerber Dime. Let's talk about the pliers. They are very similar. One thing I noticed is that the Gerber Dime's pliers seem to open a little bit wider than the ones on the Mini Sailor. I do like, they feel a little more hefty, although they're about the same size. I do feel like these are a little more sturdy when I'm using them, and that extra weight gives me a little extra purchase when compared to these two. So I can get a confident 3 fingers in these, where in these it's a 3-finger-ish, and this sits in my hand, so that does help a little bit, but I just feel better using these than I do with these. So they both have a knife, and one thing I like about both of them is that the tools are accessed on the outside. This one has a knife, and this is the knife on the Dime. So here's the knife comparing the two. If you notice the two, I'm going to try to hold them shoulder to shoulder. You look at the difference in the knives. This one's significantly different in size. Look at the width of the blades. So for me, that's a big difference right there. They both could probably stand a little bit of sharpening, but one thing that always bothered me with the Dime is I swore this was like something made out of paper or something like that. It had a lot of flex and it was really thin to me. This, while it's not a super huge knife, it does flex the entire handle, but it's a more substantial knife when compared to this one. So now let's talk about the flathead. The Nextool has a little bit more reach, but this one has a wider tool. So if that's something important to you, I think they'll probably work in about the same area when comparing the two. One gives a slight more pry than this one does, but this one has a slight angle down. So that may work out for you. I don't know. I don't use most of my tools as a pry bar. You just use the flathead. So let me know how that works out for you. And for me, probably the biggest difference between the two would be comparing the scissors on this guy compared to the scissors on this. One thing to note is the mechanism is a little bit different, but it's not that complicated. So these are the scissors. When looking at them, you see on the Nextool, they're a more substantial scissor than they are on the Gerber Dime. And these aren't sharp anymore at all. I hated the scissors as well. And these scissors seem to work a little better. Maybe when I do another comparison, we'll do a little gauntlet or obstacle course between the two and see what we get. But I don't think it's fair if I don't spend the time to sharpen up some of the blades on these to give it a real comparison. So that's where we are right there. Those are the scissors. Notice the size in the scissors. The scissors on here just go straight down like that. And these, you have to be careful to make sure you don't cut your finger, and they just go like that. Hey, I hope you're liking the video so far. Don't forget to like, comment with any gear reviews you'd like to see in the future, and subscribe to MF for Research. Any support helps grow my little small corner of the EDC community. Now back to the next two tools that they both have would be the bottle opener. So the Gerber Dime goes with this more external option, and this one goes with the more traditional basic option. I don't really care about a bottle opener, but they have them. If that's important to you, they are here. And now let's go to the final thing that they have alike between them, which is also not a big issue for me, and that's the key loops. While the one on the Nextool is bigger, it really doesn't make much of a difference for me. I don't think anybody out there is going to say that the key loop is going to be the deciding factor for me. So now let's talk about where the dime is different. And first up, since we've got the tool closed, let's stick on the outside and tweezers. It has tweezers. They're very small, very thin, but they're tweezers that come through in a pinch. Another area that the Gerber Dime is different on would be the small flathead. It fits in some Phillips slots too, but this is primarily marketed as a small flathead. So this one has a small flathead and it has a larger flathead. So you've got two options on your flathead screwdrivers. And then the other thing, and probably one of the most used tools right now, would be the file. So you've got your coarse file and you've got your fine file on this side. It's built into here, and so that's definitely a nice add. Works pretty good on both sides. So definitely a nice little tool to have that this one doesn't have. This would probably be the main tool that I prefer to add to this one if we could. Last up, this used to be my original favorite tool on this guy. It was perfect for opening packages, but as it got dull, it didn't work as well. And it's a pain in the butt to try to sharpen. You can get in there a little bit, but it's still a little bit of a pain. But when it worked great. So didn't have anything bad to say about it from there. So now let's look at this guy. So while the Nextool has a bottle opener just like the Gerber Dime, their mechanism also includes a can opener. Didn't think a can opener was that important to me until maybe about a month ago. I ended up using one for the first time on a can for my wife when she was doing something. So definitely came in handy. It's kind of a double design right there. If that's something that doesn't work for you, then that's something to keep in mind as well. To me, it works. It's a way to get both tools in here and have a little bit of functionality, so I don't mind it. This one probably isn't a deal breaker tool for me. There's a sim ejector tool here that you could use that this one doesn't have. And then last up, we'll go into that pretty quick, is this one doesn't have a mini flathead. It actually goes for the flat Phillip route. I think that's a little bit better. I'm not a huge fan of flat Phillips, but in a pinch, you can get it to work on certain things. So it's there. This one doesn't have one at all. One thing to mention about both of them is that the blades on here don't lock. None of the tools on the outside lock. So if that's an issue for you, which I think on most of these micro tools like this, trying to find a locking blade is going to be very difficult. And one good thing about them both is they both have all the tools on the external handle. So I really like that fact. And you don't have to go opening the tool up, going in here and trying to access the tool. So definitely glad about that. So now let's talk about why I like the Nextool a little bit better. It's slightly larger and gives a little more purchase. And because of that, in the Damn It pouch that I got it for, it fits in here a lot better. Let's move that so it's not jingling all over the place. It sits in here a lot better than the Gerber Dime does. Let me show you that. If weight or size, if it's on your keychain, you may have a different consideration for that. But because I'm sitting in a pouch, I prefer that slight little bit of size. The 20 grams in weight isn't going to make a big deal for me. As I've shown you before, the difference in the knives is significant, and we can do that here. Also, the size of the scissors. Scissors are pretty important to me in a little multi-tool like this, because you're always going to cut straight threads, stuff like that, tags, all those kind of things that you don't really want to use your knife for. And I prefer the size on the scissors on the Nextool than these. And like I mentioned before, I prefer that it has the flat Phillips over just this mini flathead. So that's the other thing that makes me like this guy a little bit better. And now where the dime kind of shines. Going back to this part, the file, I definitely like that. Like I said, they could have easily put one there, but that would take away from the nail nick on that side. But I would have liked the file, at least one of the files on there would have been nice. Also, comparing the two, the fact that this guy has tweezers is an added benefit. You're not always going to use them. They're not the best tweezers in the world. I have a better pair that I carry in my EDC, but these aren't a bad little emergency backup to the backup to the backup tweezers if you have them. And then the package opener, that was really handy. If we could keep it sharp a little bit longer, that would be really perfect. And I really did like that. And the fact that the flathead on this guy is a bit larger than the flathead on the Nextool is something to also look at as well. Not a deal breaker for me, but just if you're comparing the two, I like to show where each one shines. So if one thing is more important to you, while it may not be important to me, I just want to let you know so you have that in there too. So that right there has been my comparison of these two guys. The Nextool Mini Sailor is getting put in the pouch for good now, unless I can find something to dethrone it. Maybe the other tool might be the SOG Power Pint, or maybe the mini flagship from Nextool might be a better tool. If you have experience with those two, let me know. Some of you guys have told me about the Power Pint in the comments, so I appreciate that. Let me know what you think. Have you tried the Nextool before? What do you think about the Gerber Dime? Do you have that? As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. This is Lamar with MF and Research, and I'm out.